Greetings. Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to DevChatter. We are going to be doing an interesting episode today. Well, I like to think most of our episodes are interesting, but either way, I want to welcome all of you here. We're going to be doing a fun kata today, and I want to specifically shout out to anyone who is new to the stream. Welcome. Hello, my name is Brendan. You can see my name right down there below there. I am the host of the DevChatter live stream, and I want to make sure that I've taken a moment to... Hang on one second. Sorry. To welcome you to the stream. So if you are someone who is just showing up for the first time, feel free to chat over there in the chat box on the stream. We have a very friendly community who will openly answer questions and talk to you about everything that's going on during the stream. So if you are someone that is interested in chatting, awesome. Hit the chat box and talk with people. This is DevChatter. We should be talking about programming and stuff the whole time while we're coding, and it should be fun. If you are someone that doesn't want to talk and you just want to sit back, enjoy the conversation that other people are having, then awesome. That is a golden Grenadon, S&B. When I enabled the 2-month sub badge, I then was able to shift and add the extra golden one on the end. So I added one extra Grenadon to the end, and so everyone that has at least... Is it a year, 2 years? There's whatever one that one is. Congratulations, you have a golden Grenadon. Maybe it's a year and a half. I don't remember. Either way, welcome everyone, and yep, Katrina has one as well. So welcome all. Welcome to the stream. We are going to go ahead and get started here in a moment. I figure I'll mention a couple of things while we're doing our intro. I want to give people time to show up so I don't explain the kata and everything and then have to re-explain it over and over. Speaking of moderators, feel free to grab a link to that. I didn't put that in the bot. I really should put that on the bot. What's my command to do that? Command add? No. I don't remember how to do that. I'm gonna have to go look up in my own bot how to add commands, because it's been so long since I've added commands to the bot. But either way, that is the link to the kata we're going to be doing today. So welcome, everyone. While we're waiting, I will shout out a couple of things. First off, if you... oh, well, that's why. Did I not start it? No, it's running. Well, now you've got me confused. Because usually, if the bot's not... well, I notice it's not chatting. Did I not actually start it? Hang on, maybe I didn't actually start it. Like, maybe it didn't actually get in there? Yeah, it didn't say hi. It never connected to chat. It still didn't connect to chat. Did its OAuth token expire or something? Now it's got me wondering. Why isn't the bot connecting to chat? That's weird. Well, either way, I won't worry about it. So I guess we'll be botless today. That's fine. Because I'm not going to go fiddle with an OAuth token while we're on stream. So welcome everyone, and as SMD has just showed you, if you mention a color or a hex code, it will change the lights around the stream. So if you want to change those at any point, feel free to just mention the name of a color, either a hex code starting with a pound sign, number sign, whatever you want to call it, hashtag, whatever. You can go ahead and type that in, and it will change to whatever color it is you want for the lights of the stream. I have Interactive 7 turned off, so that menu is going to remain green for the whole stream, because I'm not bothering with that one. All right, let's jump into the beginning of explaining. I think I've given people enough time to show up. So welcome, everyone. We are going to be doing an interesting kata today. So the kata we're going to do is surprisingly one I have not done before. Now, I have known of this kata for about a decade. I don't remember exactly when, but it was probably around like 2009, 2010, something like that, maybe 2011. Somewhere in that time frame is when I first heard about this kata. So I used to do a workshop. I did it for about 9 years, I think, at a conference called Code Mash. And at that event, I would run a workshop that was really like introducing people to concepts of TDD and IOC and version of control and all of these different concepts that could change the way that they think about the code that they were writing so that they could actually test it. So it's a bit of like, even if you've heard about this, even if you've tried this, here's how you like approach it real world. So we started off at the beginning of the day and we did this, and we basically did okay, we're just going to do some really simple stuff, basic katas and things like that, so that we make sure that we get all the kinks out and everybody's just used to the idea of doing TDD. And then in the afternoon portion of the workshop, when people had already had like 4 hours of working through the kinks of TDD and figuring out how to do it, we would then have them work on more advanced katas where they would do stuff that actually required more complicated TDD type approaches. And that was basically like our 101 and 102 steps into like doing some of these practices that you wanted to be able to take back to your day jobs and make your code, I guess, better tested. So that was the concept that we had a long time ago, and we did that for many years as a workshop at Code Mash. The interesting thing is, in our first year doing it, we had I cannot. We had a bunch of people that showed up that I can't remember if I think Guy and George, who are the people that I believe first made this kata. So these two, I believe that they at least one of them attended our workshop that first year. The second year, the funny thing was they got the work. They were doing a workshop. Specifically where they brought in the EverCraft Kata, and they had people for a whole day just do this kata. Like, literally for, like, the whole workshop was just doing this kata. And it was a really interesting concept. We're not going to finish the whole kata in our stream today. We'll just start it and see how far we get and just do stuff with it, and we'll talk about it while we go. But anyway, it was really interesting because then for the next 8 years, yes, it is a big kata. As I said, I've never done it, but I know of it. Because for 8 years, this kata was being done like literally in the room next door. So we'd actually go and I'd always wander over to the window and wave over and, knock, and I'd have a conversation with Guy while he was running the workshop next door. And so like we'd both just have these rooms with like, 50 to 100 people in it just working on stuff. And so we just stopped by and went, hey, how's your kata go? Oh, good. We just talk about stuff. And it was, what I thought was really nice about it was because it was almost like the workshop we did was the 101. You really want to learn the foundation of how to do this stuff. And theirs was like the 2000 level course. So it's like the next year after you attend ours 1 year, you should go to theirs the next year is kind of what I really liked about it. It was like, no, get used to this, do this one. And then the next step is to go into that one. In fact, I'd usually recommend that people grab their kata and after ours, just like, yep, next week, go ahead and try this one. Yes, it exactly, S&B. It's a bit like the Zombie Survivor kata. So as I said, I've never done it, but I know what it is. So it's not like I'm going in totally blind, but it'll be my first time doing this one. So let's read through the intro, and then I'll set up a project, and we'll start writing some code. All right, so how's this one start? Let's get reading. So the exercise will be a domain model for an MMORPG. EverCraft for the company. Oh, Blizzards of the Coast. Yeah, Botsy. Just follow the requirements below pairing and test driving your code. So I should also point out one of the other things our workshop did was promote concepts like pair programming. In fact, we required that everybody pair, and in fact, we would have you change pairs throughout the day. So that you got the idea that we want you to pair program, and we want you to pair program with more than one person. Okay, so requirements for the kata. Let's jump in. Okay, iteration 1 core. This iteration covers core functionality for leveling, combat. Okay, so it looks like it's broken out into... Okay, so iteration 2 must be the next step. So we'll just look at this one for now. So we're going to deal with leveling, combat, and character attributes. And this first feature we're told about is creating a character. So as a character, I want to have a name so that I can be distinguished from other characters. So we need to somehow create a character, and we want to be able to get and set a name on that character. Let's do it. All right, so first step, I created a repository on GitHub already. I did that just off stream real fast, and we have that set up here. I'm just going to commit to the master branch, which is what I recommend most people do when they're doing their initial attempt at a kata. You don't really need to deal with branching because the kata I kind of see is you build it and throw it away, and you build it again and you throw it away. It's the idea that you should build a kata from scratch every single time unless you're focusing on refactoring, at which point you can go back into one of these and then you can branch to do refactoring of it. So if your goal is just, hey, I want to refactor to a new structure, which is a different type of deliberate practice, then that's when you go back to one of these. But just commit to master for this, because you're not going to be like branching and doing separate features unless you're doing a more advanced kata and they actually suggest that, which some do. Okay, so let's go with this. So I need a project. So new project. Nothing about that said that I needed to have like a console app or anything like that. So I'm going to start off with a simple class library. So I'm going to say library, and you'll notice that this says C#, so I'm restricted just to the C# ones, and I'm not going to net standard, I'm going to net core my library. Class library, and it does not need to be all platforms. Let's go with Windows. Class library, where are you? .NET Core class library. Okay, so I need to get into this project. Axpend, maybe? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but either way, welcome. And Grumpy Dev, hey, welcome. Yes, I'm going to do my first attempt at the EverCraft Kata. Shockingly, I've never done this. Yeah, I don't know where Guy is. I pinged him when I went live with this. I figured he would show up to be like, ooh, EverCraft Kata. But he's not here, so he's going to miss out. All right, so that's where we're going to store it. And what do I call this? This will be EverCraft Core. So this will be our core project in that folder. Place solution and project in the same directory? No. And the solution name will just be EverCraft Kata. Create. And yes, welcome. I'm hoping I got close enough on that name. Let me know if I totally messed it up. Can you bully me into using F#? Not for this one, the Grumpy Game Dev. I just want to do this one in C#, but I am intending to do some F# on the stream. Grumpy Dev, were you live earlier today? Were you just live a bit ago? Okay, so here's the way I like to start. I like to build the class library, and I'm someone that I like to build the type and the failing test at the same time, because I prefer the test to fail with a runtime error as opposed to a compiler error. So though it doesn't really matter, you can go either way on that one. If you're someone that likes the compiler error, do the compiler error and don't create the placeholder. It's up to you. A couple of hours ago? Okay, I thought I saw that you were live earlier today. Okay, so we're calling. So I was checking here to get the language. I don't know that I can emphasize this enough. Language is ridiculously important. Make sure that you match the same language as whomever it is that is your customer type person. So if you're building software for a company, for a person, make sure that the names you use for things match the names that they do. Otherwise, you get a lot of confusion. So in this case, I was looking to see whether they called it the hero or the character or what this was called. And so since this is called a character, I am going to name this one character as well. Now, we could run into some problems because character also can mean like a letter in, like as in like, so in programming, so we have a little bit of a crossover, like that is the character A, and we don't mean that, we mean a character like, kind of like a, a concept of an existing being is what our character is. So I want to have a name. So we're going to create a name, and I'm going to give it, well, maybe I'll leave the name off for now, but I guess I could do this. So I guess if I want to have a failing test, then I guess the way I could do a failing test right now would be to do this. New not implemented exception. If I really want to have a failing test and do this TDD deliberately, we can do that. Okay, so next thing I need, which maybe someone's shouting at me about, is I need to have a test project. So let's go ahead and get our test project set up. Exactly, yes, yep, ubiquitous language. Ubiquitous language is a very, very important thing. Hey Todd, welcome. Make immutable model. Yeah, Fuel Snibble. I guess I could. So in many ways, I'm really looking forward to doing the record type stuff. But again, I'm doing this kata for the first time, so I want to focus on the kata, less on the interesting stuff, because I've never done this one before. So usually, what I do for like those try this weird interesting thing is I will go and do the I will do that on a kata that I've done before, which this is not. Okay, so I'm going to do XUnit for this one. So let's go ahead and do an XUnit project. Urban Blaster, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Welcome to the stream. And Chucklestone, welcome. I see you there as well. Grumpy Game Dev, you weren't following? I am shocked, but thank you all the same. and I assumed you were. I had someone in the last stream that I was like, wait, you weren't following? And like, I thought I was too. I'm like, yep. All right, so let's just call this project tests for now. So we're going to have a tests project here. I'm going to do XUnit for it. If you are someone in the .NET world that's more used to NUnit, I will explain the differences, so don't let that scare you off. Mostly it's just difference in naming and some of the pieces. They're pretty much the same. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, I assumed you were too. They're a bunch of like, and I know I've done that before. It's like, I thought I was I've followed a few people that I'm like, I thought I was already following you. But yeah, it happens. Okay, so a couple of other things. So in your setup, there are always a few packages that I always make sure that I get. So I'm going to run through a couple of those. So if you are someone that is in the .NET space, there are a handful of libraries that do this. Whoops. Go to Browse, Brendan. This is called Fluent Assertions, and this changes the way that you assert for most of these. It'll work for XUnit or NUnit or MS Test or whatever testing framework you're using in the .NET world. So a lot of people will look at like the assertions and testing frameworks in the .NET space, and they'll go, "Oh, that's like the old-timey one. That looks like the stuff in C++ from forever ago." To which I sit there and it's like, you can just grab Fluent Assertions and write it more like you're used to with any other framework, and then it's basically the same again. So if that's what's keeping you away from using C#, then I think you're silly. You can just do it this way. Okay. I dislike that it is not as clear how to do a before each in XUnit. Yes, XUnit does not make that clear. In fact, it is just in the constructor. And so if you want the clarity of the setup method that exists in NUnit, then absolutely just use NUnit, and you can have like your setup methods that do that. So there's like, it's like what is it, setup test, and is like a setup for the class and a setup for the test both. Yes, C# is a perfectly good language for a lot of things. Before each is not like a for each that runs backwards. Setup and teardown. Yes, they have a setup and teardown, but I think they have one both for the test fixture as well as for the test methods. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in here. So example, because I told everyone that we're going to use Fluent Assertions, so I'm going to explain really quickly what that is by doing this. So This is going to come back with false, obviously. So this says assert that A equals B, which it doesn't, so that's going to fail. But if this was A equals A, it would pass. So this is the assertions that most people in the .NET world are used to. Yeah, it was a failing test, Grumpy Game Dev, but we're not going to do it that way. What we're going to do instead is this approach. Well, here, I'll put them side by side so you can see them. So I'm going to say A should be A. And then that's the way that Fluent Assertions has us write it. So it's, instead of saying assert equal A, it's A should be A. It's like, oh yeah, I read that. A should be this. You know, like, result should be 5. The, is active should be true, and those sorts of things. So that's sort of the concept of this. So I figured I would show that. I don't know what I'm going to name test 1 just yet, so I'm not going to worry about it. What I am going to do is I'm going to attempt to create my character. So when I say new character, I'm going to attempt to call the constructor of that, and I'm going to say character equals new character. And at this point, I need to have a reference, so I'm actually going to lean on the development tools that I'm using, and I'll have it automatically reference the core project from my test project. And then that should be there. And now I want to say character name should be... how do we want this to start? Do we want them to have just an empty string for a name or a null for a name? I'm going to lean empty string because I prefer that over nulls. I think we should almost force the name to be there by default, but I don't know. You stick to your assert r equals. Yeah, so the thing about that is it's all up to preference, and that's what I like about it, is if you want to write it the way I'm doing it here, you can use these. If you want to use the standard assertions, then awesome. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. So we'll just say that it should be name. So we'll default it to name if they didn't set a name. Okay. So this is, how do we want to start this? We'll say, character should, we'll go with that level for now and decide if we need to go lower in a minute. So we're going to rename the file to match that name. And now here we're going to say character should default to, we'll say have default name at creation. So I could say at creation or when created, anything like that. I don't do the underscores on that. Now, there are some interesting libraries that will, when displaying the results of the test, will treat an underscore as a space. So if you want to, you can, have things either grouped or spaced out like that with some of those. I just do the Pascal casing for the name. If you want to do underscores, go ahead and do underscores. Okay, so this obviously should fail. In fact, we're expecting it to throw a runtime exception. We want it to throw an exception and say not implemented. Okay, so there we go. We got our not implemented exception, which means that we're calling the code we expect to be. So that's good. That's part of the reason why we want that failing test first, is because we want to make sure that we really called the code that we thought we were calling. Okay, so again, we're going to TDD this like we mean it. So we're going to do the step-by-step. So this is only completing that part, which actually I could even go back to this, now that I think about it, and just make the getter return back name. There we go. So now this test should pass. Oh, that's actually pretty awesome, Fuel Snable. Okay, so... Alright, let's go ahead. So, has the default name at creation. Character should... what was the language this used? This said get and set name. So we're gonna say character should get and set name. Not the most clear, but usually you don't, like, I don't usually write the test for the properties, but since this is a kata, we'll go ahead and be more deliberate. And I actually do recommend doing that. When you are in practice mode, test a little bit more, like when the goal is testing the like active TDD, test a little bit more than you normally would. Okay, so we want to say character name equals what's our hero going to be named? I guess we'll call her Artemis. So she'll be named Artemis, and we're going to save this as a variable. Let's write test for the test. Yeah, S&B, that's a great idea. All right, so we're going to take name right here. We're going to move that up to the top. So that is our name for the character, and should be name. So when we set it, we should get name. Now at this point, I can decide, do I want to get really trolly and like start setting a value in weird ways and making it so that if you called the setter, it switches it to Artemis. But I'm not up against another. I'm not like doing ping pong pairing with another person like Guy, so I'm not going to troll to that level. But let's do this. So we're going to go ahead and say name get set, and we're just going to assign it equal to name. So this sets a default value for the property equal to name. So this code is basically, it's identical to if we had done this with the constructor. So this code and the code you just saw here, this is fundamentally the same code right here. So this is doing the same thing. But one of them does it in one line without having to declare a constructor. So you know which one I'm picking. Okay, so let's go ahead and run these tests. Because I totally botched that and forgot to switch the setting one, but that's fine. There we go. Okay, let's Gamio, hello, welcome, greetings. Planning to plan meetings are the best. Oh, so the funny thing is, there are people that I have meetings with sometimes where the meeting to plan the meeting is important because you need to have a team of people to keep that person on track. So there are some people I have to work with occasionally where it's like, okay, we need to, like, this person will get off the rails and we need to keep this meeting focused. So in order to make sure that a meeting where you're pulling information out of a specific person's head, we do plan meetings before we talk with him. And he knows that we do that. It's like, no, we planned out this meeting. We know that you get off topic. You focus on details. It's like, we're going to have a meeting. Come up with everything we need to extract from your head, because it's actually shorter that way. All right. So that works. So, okay. What do we got next? So that is creating a character. Next up, alignment. So this character is supposed to have an alignment. Can get and set an alignment. And alignments are good, evil, and neutral. Now what I'm wondering on this, see, I'm looking at that right there, and already with good, evil, and neutral, there's a few things that have hopped into my head. First off, alignment could be a string. Alignment could be a nullable Boolean. Alignment could be, because you could do like an is good, for example, where good is true, evil is false, and neutral is the nullable case, which I don't actually recommend that one, but it is an implementation that does cover that case. The try-bool, as it were. Alternately, you could do an enumeration that has those values for it. So there's a lot of ways that you can go. So, but I think like my instinct on this one is that string is weird in C# because it is weirder to maintain a set of strings. That being said, yeah, so I'm planning on enum, Edgar. But what I was going to say is that one of the reasons to do enum is the fact that it constrains the values. But the funny thing is, it doesn't constrain the values because you can have an enum of values that don't actually exist. Which, when I am worried about that, I put a little snippet of code in there that verifies when I'm receiving values from external sources. For example, if I'm getting like model-bound values coming in from ASP.NET Core, for example, I will actually check the validity of that value and make sure, like, you matched one of my enums, right? Before I even put it on, like, before I do anything with it, I'm like, I'm going to confirm that you this was valid, or I'm just throwing it out immediately and being like, bad request, dude. That is not not okay. Not okay. Get out of here. Okay. All right, so here's our hero. She needs some properties. I'm going to start off by duplicating this, but I think I'm going to get rid of it right away. Remove the duplication by is what I mean by that. So get and set alignment. Didn't say that so get and set alignments are good, evil, and neutral. Whoops. Let's see. So that's the alignment. What do we want to do with this one? Let's go ahead and make alignment. Prop alignments. Alignment. We're going to create this as a type. It is an enum type. There are our alignments. Now, what kind of evil horribleness do I want to do with these? Here's my thought. Evil, neutral, and good. Whoops. And set them equal to -1, 0, and 1. Yeah, exactly, Grumpy Game Dev. Yep, we agree. I was thinking set those. Okay, so before I do this, let's comment that out, and we're gonna say, well, get throw new not implemented exception set. Okay, welcome, Powered Rail. Thank you for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so as I said, I don't like the compiler error being the failing test. I would rather have a thrown exception as my failing test. So that's, again, what we're going to do. So we're going to say get and set alignment. And this will be alignment. And we'll say alignment should be alignment. So that'll be the alignment. And now I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Theory. Okay, so someone now needs to ask, Brendan, what's a theory? Because I said, ooh, good point, S&B. I'll add that one as well. Just in time for tea. First off, I love your name. And welcome to the stream. Oh, man, I haven't had tea on stream in so long. So, for anyone that hasn't been following the stream for a long time, there are two things that I drink during DevChatter live streams. During the warmer months, of which there are about 10 where I live, it feels like, although people that live in warmer climates than me would disagree and say the exact opposite. During those warmer months, I like to drink Pepsi on stream. During those couple of cold months that we have here, I like to drink tea. Sadly, it's one of those warmer months. Okay, so we're going to get and set the alignment. So it's complaining about... So, fact and a theory. A fact is just a straight normal test. A theory is one that has test cases. That means we're going to parameterize this. So we will add parameters. And the parameter I'm going to add is alignments evil. We will say alignments alignment. So now, boom, that one exists. and I can make 3 instances, so we'll have evil, neutral, and good. And those are basically the 3 test cases it's going to run through. So it's going to run this once for each line, passing in that value as the parameter. So, test cases. This should fail. I'm going to cheat one last time on our TDD approach. T with code is blasphemy. No. Urban Blaster. Let's have peace talks here. Plenty of people drink coffee while coding. Some people drink tea while coding. Some people drink pop, soda, whatever while coding. Fizzy drinks with the factor that aligns us all is that we're all drinking caffeine. No, and for those people that avoid caffeine, that's fine too. You can code without caffeine. Peace all around. Peace all around. And yes, there is Live Coders tea. I have that downstairs. I have not tried mine yet. I'm looking forward to it. Which actually reminds me, I probably should have worn my jersey on this stream, but I forgot to. Okay, so that test is clearly failing. So let's go ahead and over to the characters, and we're just going to go ahead and do this. Get, set. Okay. So now that test should pass, I think. We're going to find out in a moment, fingers crossed. And yay! Passing test. Okay. The couple of takeaways from here. First off, this tells me that I want to, at this point, do a little refactoring. This is sort of a refactoring. This is adding additional data to my tests. I want to extract this Artemis name out to here so I can confirm that it wasn't just Artemis that worked. Any name would work. Okay, so Artemis, she's great. We want to have someone else as a hero as well. We need more than one hero. Who are we going to pick? We'll go with my favorite wizard. My favorite wizard, Harry. Mo, Larry, and Curly. Yeah, that could be a good choice. Oh, see, Apollo's a much better choice to go with Artemis. Except that the funny thing with Harry that I like about that one is that I said my favorite wizard is named Harry, and a whole bunch of people are probably thinking of the wrong one right now. And that's what I like about that, is that there's a good chance you're thinking of the wrong Harry. All right, so while our tests are passing, I'm going to go ahead and run this, and we expect this still to be green. Okay, good. So that just shows that we were able to add additional cases, and it's still green. So we thought S&V is correct. I am talking about the Dresden files, which S&V might have noticed that I looked off to the side when I said that, because I could reach over here and just grab a book off the bookshelf and go, oh look, it's Harry Dresden. Yes, I have the whole series, and specifically, what someone may have figured out. I haven't read the new book. There's a book in that series literally just came out this week, so that's why that one's on my mind, because why not? Okay. So the other thing is we want a default value for the alignment. So let's do that. Okay. Default alignment at creation. And this will say alignment should be alignments neutral. There we go. Okay. So this test is going to fail. We're going to make it succeed in a moment, and then I'm going to have a question for it defaulted to it does default to that regardless. Dang it. No, we're going to do it deliberately. Okay. So what happened? So this is exactly my point. This is what I pointed out is what is deceptively dangerous about enums, and a lot of people don't think about this one. So we sort of set ourselves up for this failure here. Okay, I should also point out I have a video on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/DevChatter, and which I will link. And on that channel, there is a series called DevChatter Basics. that is essentially where I talk about some foundational concept that I think is important, like something that is like just, basic to programming in C#, and I just explain what it is, basically, how it works, how you use it, those sorts of things. Hassam, thank you. That is really nice. I am really glad you appreciate the stream. I'm glad to do it. I have a lot of fun with it, and I really enjoy teaching. So I actually have taught at a university before, like intro to programming stuff. I really enjoy like sharing programming knowledge with people. It's how we make a really nice community. So I just linked to my YouTube channel there. The reason I did that is because I have a series on there called DevChatter Basics, and I actually did a whole video just talking about enums. So here's what's going on. So in C# with an enum, there are a couple of things. First off, you don't really see it here, but the enum I created is actually an integer. And you may have noticed that turned, like, you'll notice it's somewhat gray. Just zoom in so you can really see that there. Notice how that is not as light as this. That's telling me that it's unnecessary. So even my tooling is saying remove the redundant int, because I don't need it, because the type of my enum defaulted to int already. Now I could have set this to uint. Now that says that it's not going to be a make it an S byte. Yes, thank you, Grumpy Game Dev. Yes, there are some other choices I could make. I could just I could make it an S byte, which is in this. So C# is interesting in this way. Just for a little bit of clarity, uint is an unsigned int. Int is a signed int. That means int can have negatives. A byte, however, is not a signed byte. This is an unsigned byte. So rather than following the same convention they use elsewhere with a u short and a uint, they didn't write this as like a u byte, for example, because that would be really weird. So I'm really glad they didn't do that. But what that means is that we pick up what's called an s byte, which is a signed byte. So that means that I can have only a few. This is a much smaller set of data that I can have here for alignments, because I don't need dozens upon dozens. And SNB is correct. I could also make it a bit flag if I wanted. So I could say that this is a flag. At which point I probably wouldn't want to do an S byte then, because that would probably be confusing if I did it that way. But yes, Grumpy Game Dev is correct. It's going to go from negative 128 to 127 is the limit of what could be stored there if we're thinking in terms of decimal numbers. But essentially it's going to be 8 bits of ones and zeros that can go straight across. So we could do flags. I don't really want to flag this one. I'm just showing how to do it, but the reason why is that no one's going to be both evil and good. I guess we could make a bit flag concept from these so that you could say these are the allowed alignments, but I'm not going to get into that complexity because we don't really need that. So we're going to skip it. All right, shrink the code back down because we don't need that much for this. So we'll make alignments in S byte. But the thing I wanted to explain is this. By default, if I don't specify these, and I just leave it as evil, neutral, and good, what are the values? So evil, as you can see when I mouse over this, defaults to 0, neutral will default to 1, and good will default to 2. Alternately, I could set evil equal to 5, and what does chat think neutral and good are now in turn? What are the values for neutral and good? Is it still 1 and 2, or is it 6 and 7, or is it 10 and 15? It definitely brings up some questions. Evil 666. Yeah, you could. So it actually just continues on. So neutral becomes 6 and good becomes 7. So for that reason, most of the time when I make an enum, if I'm not going to store it in a database, I will do this. And I'll just say evil equals 1. If I'm just planning on using it in memory. If I think these values are going to get stored somewhere, then I will specify every single one of these values. And the reason I do that is because that's an indicator that you cannot change it. Yes, exactly right, Urban. you'd need a short for that. Oh yes, to do 666. Yes. If we wanted to do evil as 666, we would need to use a short because s byte is not large enough. But if we do this, then we don't have to do an s byte. We could just do a byte. So the nice thing about doing a byte is this does a couple of things for us. First off, this will not allow us to have negative numbers. So that's won't allow us to have negative numbers. That's a positive. Woo! Oh man, I'll be here all week. Okay, so the benefit though is that 0 is not one of the oh, there are absolutely crickets for that. 0 is the default value for an integer in C#. I think most people realize that. If you've been using C# for a while, you know that if you don't initialize an integer, its value is 0. So that's the default value for an integer. That's why our test passed. Now if we try this, our test should fail. So we have changed those values. 0 is no longer valid, and now we have a failing test. So yay, expected the alignment to be neutral but found 0. Okay, so now we can say alignment neutral. Whoops. Meant to do that. Helps if you type the right thing. What is this? What did one snowman say to the other? Do you smell carrots? No, yeah, Urban Blaster, that is, so the only reason not to do it the way that I suggested, where you start with just defining the first value, is if there's concern that developers in the future are not going to know how that code works. So, and that always depends on the team. So it's important before using any language feature to generally get a sense of, like, how well does the current team maintaining the project know the language you're using. If your team knows the language really well, use whatever you want from the language. If your team is newer to the language, I recommend you avoid some of the, like, you need to know how it works type features. I'm not usually worried about it as long as it's not like something really confusing, to use general language features for code that you're intending to be around for a while. And the reason is, in time, a lot of those features are better known by the community. So features that are ubiquitous and well known to all of us today were not as well known 5 years ago. So like 5 years ago, you might have said, do I use the string interpolation? And now we're like, yeah, you just use string interpolation. So, and you're right, Fuel Snable, but it's some of those cases where you can run into code that succeeds, and I've definitely had code that succeeds because 0 was a valid value before. A lot of times that that'll come up when a value's like was not actually sent, you didn't actually receive it, and if 0 is acceptable, you might default it and think you received that. Yes, Renee, we posted it in the beginning of the stream. I will post it again so that people have it. We are doing the EverCraft Kata, link in the chat. Okay, so did anyone see some duplication that we can obviously get out of here? I will give chat a moment to tell me what is clearly duplicated that we can get rid of. Okay, that's probably enough time for chat to make some suggestions. So anybody that's on delay has a moment to put in some suggestions. So the first bit of duplication is, yes, putting together the defaults. Exactly. That is precisely what I'm going to be doing, is putting the defaults together. So have default values at creation. All right. So that test clearly does not need to be separate. And run the tests again. And I highly recommend that when you're refactoring tests, when you change these things, run the tests one at a time like this. Don't make all the refactorings and run it, because if you did mess up something and break it, it's harder to Control Z and just get yourself out of it. Someone got their messages deleted by the bot. Sorry, Edgar. Nightbot does not allow you to post links in here, so it got you on something. I didn't see what the link was. If it even wasn't a link, sometimes it thinks things are a link, like if you said ASP.NET. And greetings, Body Lice. Welcome, person in Texas. Welcome to a stream that is being hosted in the great state of Ohio. Let's combine these two. So we're going to say get and set name and alignment. Now, on this one, a lot of people get concerned about the word and showing up in their method names. And I'll tell you, I'm not worried about this one here. And part of the reason, so we might change this from get and set name and alignment to, for example, get and set basic properties in a future revision of this. And the reason why is that since the test is basically, I can just set, simple properties on the object, which the kata has asked us to do, I'm not terribly worried about making sure that those work really well. That's one of those, yeah, I kind of expect that they work. And now it's up to you whether you want to do the assignments and then all the assertions together, or whether you want to do assign, assert, assign, assert, assign, assert. That's totally however you want to do it. Wait, what are tests? That's what you do after documentation. Yes, code with Sean. You write tests and the documentation while the product is going into production. So just after the customers start getting the bugs and having things break because they don't know how it works, that's when you start writing the documentation and the tests. And make sure that you call the developers that are trying to use your software idiots for not having read your non-existing documentation. Yep. I have absolutely worked with code before that did not have any explanation for how to use it. That's not fun. All right, so let's give these characters some alignment. So we're going to make Harry neutral. We're going to make Artemis good. And then we need someone who is evil. All right, we need an evil character. Evil character. Well, funny enough, I could go with Artemis again and just change Artemis's. So I was saying Artemis like the female Artemis, but I was also but there are some evil characters with that. Dr. Evil, Saruman. Yes, there we go. What? No. If we're gonna go that route, we're gonna go with who was a good choice? If I could type it. There we go. Dr. Horrible. No, I will not start singing the songs on stream. You won't get it to happen. Not gonna happen. Ozzy. No, Fuel Snable. Absolutely not. He's so good. Yes, exactly. Yep. Oh, I could... Code with Sean, I know all of those songs. All of them. Every lyric to that whole thing. I have watched that so many times. It is ridiculous. That's one of my favorites. If you haven't seen Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, I don't know where you can watch it these days, but seriously, if you like Neil Patrick Harris at all, oh, you're gonna have a good time. Oh, have you? That is nice. Yes. She sings some of the songs, not quite as many as ZenPH does, but hers are very good also. Do you hate the homelessness problem that plagues our city? There's some terrible things in there. And by terrible I mean really bad jokes that you're like, yep. they're very you have to like stuff that's funny and not funny. Okay, what's next? Hit points. Okay, so armor class that defaults to 10. Okay, I can do that. I want to have an armor class and hit points that I can resist attacks from enemies. Has 5 hit points by default. Okay. So we said get and set alignment and have default values at creation. So that's the default value there. So default values would include character.armor class. That's what they called it. Let's make sure. Armor class, yep. Should be 10. Okay. Let's go ahead and create that property. So armor class, I'm actually just going to make it an int for the convenience of it, but technically speaking, I don't think they allow negatives in this system. They haven't said that's the case, but I'm just going to do that for now. Throw new not implemented exception. Let's run this. That would be Theater of Cringe. Yes. And by terrible, no. Someone should have chimed in and said, the jokes aren't there. The jokes in that show are not terrible. They're horrible. Okay, there we go. I was confused why there was still a red squiggly there. There should not have been. Armor class should be 10. Why didn't you throw an exception? Did this not compile? There we go. I was like, that should have thrown. Alright, so let's default this value to 10. Go back. Make sure that works. So, default armor class of 10. Okay. Next up is 5 hit points by default. So they haven't said anything about changing armor class. That's why I set that to a get-only property. So this is a read-only property right here. And then this one says defaults to. So I'm going to just assume that it has a getter setter and not worry about that just yet. But I might make them private because it didn't say that I could set them yet. So I'm probably going to do that. And I think it said hit points. Hit points, yes. So is that going to yell at me? Auto properties never accessed. That's fine. Okay, let's run this. The default of 0 should... Come on, Brendan. Default the hit points to 5 and then run it. So we're going to run that one, and should be good. Okay. So now we need to set that to 5. I guess I could make it... I could do this. Which is slightly different than what I did there. But I'm going to assume that this is not a read-only property. Hit points have got to be able to change. And so, yes, I'm using my brain there to be like, yeah, I know how that feature is going to work. So there is something to be said for Yagni and trying to keep your changes simple, but I think I can guess that. Okay, so we have armor class, we have defaults. Now we need to attack. So a character can attack. As a combatant, I want to be able to attack other combatants so that I can survive to fight another day. When you attack, you will roll a 20-sided die. Don't code the die. Good. I assume that means just use whatever random number generation your programming language has. Roll must meet or beat opponent's armor class to hit. Okay, yeah, we can do that. Speaking of which, Yagni, and no. You pass what is on the die. Oh, is that what you think they mean? Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. That's a tough one. I'll make the method real fast. Attack, character, target, whoops, that's why it's not doing that. So we'll say that for now, and we'll decide about that. So character should. Do we want to keep it in character still? I guess we will. We'll do a fact for now. Attack, target, characters. Should attack, target, characters. Yeah, we'll say that. And I now want to extract out my character as a field that we're going to use in all of these. So we are going to initialize it in the constructor and make it read-only, and that'll just be the character that we use. I'm going to run the test right now just to make sure that those still pass, because I did a refactoring there. Is programming for games similar to programming for applications? Yeah, so there are some similarities between game programming and programming applications. It depends on what you mean by game programming also. So there are definitely a lot of shared concepts. There is a lot of the understanding of the underlying stuff in a program can be the same. And that being said, building business applications, you're going to have a lot more focus on data inputs and validations and business rules and notifications about things, creating additional objects and messages and storing things in the database and things like that. And yes, so the grumpy game dev is correct. So the things that are very specific to game dev are nothing like app development. That being said, there are also if you are working on networking code, there is networking code that is done both for game development and for business applications, depending on what you're building. Again, what is important in each one may differ, but some of the code still overlaps. There are, if you are, some games have web interfaces to display information and things like that about them. So, for example, I have a friend that works at Blizzard and gets to do .NET stuff sometimes for them because he's not building the game. So Blizzard doesn't use C# for the games, I don't think. Some game companies do, but he's building basically the applications that are supporting the rest of the stuff going on at that company. So even if you want to get into game dev, sometimes you can you can work at a game dev company, but not on the game itself. For example, also there's a lot of stuff. Oh yes, Fuel Snake. I think you're right. I think Hearthstone is Unity. Yeah. The funny thing is, when I think Blizzard, I don't usually think Hearthstone, but I think you're right. Yep. When I think Blizzard, I usually think, well, yeah, like StarCraft and Warcraft and Diablo and Overwatch, and that's usually what I think of. I don't usually think of their other games. I know Unity devs that will ask me what's JSON. Well, that's because JSON is mostly only going to come up in web dev specifically, not even so. Like, you could dodge JSON just building desktop applications. Like, if you might work at a company that is in construction or manufacturing or something like that, and they have an application that they distribute onto their computers at their factories or whatever, onto the laptops used by the people out on the construction site. I don't know. And that application is a client application, not a web application. And so for that, you may never run into JSON and really have use for it there either. So that's why we specify there are things that are different and the same, and it really comes down to what are you building. But a lot of the basic programming concepts remain the same. All right, so let's go ahead and try attacking a character, new character, and we're going to make this the target. Now, the question is, so for simplicity's sake, I will agree and say that yes, a valid interpretation of that is that you pass in the role. So the attack will receive the role result. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll say 11, and we'll add a parameter to that. Now, it named it poorly automatically. It gave us I, but I'm going to go with role. So target, and that's our role to hit the target, and we'll see if we hit. Did it say anything about what we're supposed to do on the attack? Can attack. Roll that must hit or bit. Attack is okay, so we're going to start with this feature that we can attack, but roll must meet or beat the opponent's armor class to hit. The hitting doesn't seem to matter yet. It's saying hit, but like hitting doesn't seem to matter. So I could return the bool, but I don't. I will, but I don't see the point. I guess we'll return it just so we have it. And we'll say bool result equals that. Result should be true. Let's go with be true. And I know that I could true that, but I want to pass it as a parameter, so I'm going to write it the other way in a second. See, a lot of game devs don't know the basic data structures because they don't need to. Yeah, exactly. Yes, so the Grumpy Game Dev's correct. A lot of the data structures that we use are designed for good understanding, change, and it's designed so that someone can read it, someone can modify it, someone can work with it, and that we can change requirements over time nicely. In application development, we are usually not focused on having immediate and instant responses like game dev is. Some applications, depending on where you are in the business world, may have like real time as an important aspect. I will cite people that work on code for like vehicles and things like that. So I know people that that work for defense contractors, and the code that they write is actually run on like on fighters, and so like that's why I was like, yeah, you don't want to like your set of requirements is very different from someone that writes business applications, and is probably closer to the requirements of the game dev than they are to the business application. Stolly, hello, welcome, greetings. I think putting attack 0 on the character may end up needing refactoring into some sort of combat resolver class. But that is entirely possible, S&B, at which point I may not need to worry about it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this attack and see what happens. So we're expecting a result of true. That, I think, should fail. Good, it does. And method not implemented. Fantastic. So clearly, the correct way of solving this is to just put in the word true. So we'll say when you call attack, it just returns true. Which is clearly the best way to solve this. Yes, exactly. Yup, Grumpy Game Dev is correct. When you're not dealing with the same circumstances that we are, there are definitely some different requirements. Okay, so I said that I want to change from a fact. We're going to change to a theory again, and we're going to do inline data. So we're going to have test cases again. And in this test case, I want to have the role and the result. So let's say int role and bool expected result. We'll say expected result. So this becomes role, and this becomes expected result. And actually, I'm just going to make it expected. Because I kind of know that it's the result. I could do 1 through 20 on that and make it a... and essentially just have like a range or something like that in there. 21's just an invalid value and shouldn't ever happen. So that's like an edge case that shouldn't be able to occur. So I don't know whether or not we should handle it. I guess if we were worried about it, we could do a guard clauses on that to make sure that the values that we receive are within the allowed parameters. I should say in that case the allowed range. And we could put that in there. I'm probably not going to worry about that for the kata though, because that I mean, I guess we could, but it feels like jumping out, like going too far down that rabbit hole. Okay, so we're saying that 10 is also supposed to be a hit, and 9 is supposed to be a miss. So I'm just going to do the ones right around that value, which, yes, I could test all 20 cases and just confirm that the first 9 are misses and the next 11 are hits, but meh. Okay, so 2 of the cases failed. It's going to be the ones that were false. So the false ones failed. Wow, why did the false ones fail? I wonder what it could be. Jeez. What went wrong here? All right. I will do this correctly and base it on the target's AC. Though we didn't check that we could change those. If target dot actually let's target dot, I was about to flip it the other way and put the role first, but I'm not worried about it. Is greater than or equal, so if that is less than the role, which that's backwards, but that's fine. I'll write it this way, and I think, boom, thank you, ReSharper. Wait, that's backwards. I'm gonna write it this way. Greater than or equal to that. Yeah, see? I wrote the logic backwards, I think. I mean, I'd find out in a moment if I wrote it backwards, because I'm gonna run the test, and we're gonna see if I did it backwards. Oh, yeah, so Stali, at the beginning of the stream, we noticed that my OAuth token had expired on the bot, and I didn't have it automatically refresh. There's also equal. So the bot's not running right now, but you can find links to the projects and the GitHub down below the stream. Maybe one of our moderators will be nice enough to link those, but possibly not. Stali, we have not done Blazor yet on the stream. So I originally held off waiting for around now, actually. So back in the beginnings of Blazor, people used to show up and say like, hey, are you going to do a project in Blazor? And my answer was always, I'm looking at Blazor, but I'm not going to build a project in it because Blazor is going to change so much over the next, year or two that I don't want to jump into Blazor. And so the reason why is that we would just spend all of our time changing the old Blazor to the new Blazor, and I was like, no. we're not going to mess with that. Someone else can go focus on that. So I was just like, yep, Ed, you go ahead and just do that. That'll be fine. You go do all your Blazor stuff. Great. I will focus on my stuff over here, and that's okay. And then now we're at the point where, yes, we could definitely do some Blazor because it's come along far enough. And then I was not actively streaming. I was doing one stream a week just on Saturdays, which was this stream, by the way. But now I'm actually doing more streams again, so I am streaming during the week as well. Janisku, the bot is off. That bot is all... Funny enough, both bots are off, which is weird. Do you know if there are any educational programming games about more advanced topics in programming? Most of the educational games are like Intro to Programming with the loops and if statements. So yes, it's like teaching you Snake and things like that. Sorry, Janisku. Yeah, the OAuth token expired on the bot and I didn't want to mess with it yet. Things like data structures and algorithms, exhaustive ingredients, etc. Search. Yeah, so I don't know if specifically one's designed to be educational, Dragon, but possibly. I'm sure there are some educational ones that are designed for that. There are certainly books about game programming that will teach that kind of stuff to you. There are courses on game programming as well that you can take at a lot of places. Yeah, the bot wasn't connecting to Twitch for some reason. I didn't want to go debugging that at the beginning of the stream when I was planning on doing this on stream. So, speaking of this, back to it. Okay, so that passed right over here. So, yay, we can hit the character. Doesn't do anything yet, but we can say, yep, it hits. All right, so we can attack. Character can be damaged. Okay. Which, do I want our character as an attacker? I want to be able to damage my enemies, so I'm not going to have our... So I'm going to focus this as we're attacking someone else, not someone's attacking us, even though that's clearly the same relationship because the character objects are the same. So I'm going to write can damage instead of can be damaged. Character should damage target on hit. I want to be able to damage my enemies so that they will die and I will live. Okay, so if an attack is successful, the other character takes 1 point of damage when hit. Okay. So, here's what we're going to do just for the sake of being explicit. So this is something that I actually like doing that not everyone does. So I'm going to check the initial hit points, and I recommend that people do this if you're... So something that I see a lot of people do when they're writing integration tests is they will write integration tests where they pull some data out of the database, and they'll be doing their integration test. They'll pull stuff out of the database, and then when they do that, they'll check a bunch of values against it, and the test will work fine. And because they're pulling the data out of the database, when things break, like, because they will, because you'll either have not cleaned up the database, or your code that refreshes it didn't run, or whatever circumstance you've got, or someone changed the default conditions of the database because they needed something else to exist in order for their other test to work. So even though you have it in a Docker container, when you run it, it's, oh, I broke this other thing over here. And it doesn't always make it clear why it's broken. So I like the initial expectations assertions. So if you make sure that the initial value is what you want it to be, that's usually a good thing, because then someone can look and be like, oh, the initial value is wrong. Oh, okay, so the test is probably fine, but I changed the initial value. So I need to make sure that, you know, for example, that hit points are always 5. So if someone changes the default value, then I know that the reason this failed is because this wasn't set to 5. Now, in this case, because we happen to also have a test on the set of default values, this isn't strictly necessary, but I still like this concept of, like, assert the precondition if there is one. So we're going to assert that the starting hit points were 5. And actually, before I get any further into this, let me switch this from a Well, actually, why not? Damage target on the hit. Well, we can maybe we'll do a theory for it. So should be 5, and then the result should be that. I'm gonna make this on attack hit. Is hit. That is really important how that casing is. That is really important casing on that. That is super important casing. We're gonna do this. Result, not result, target hit points should be let's say 4 for now, which is not correct. Expected hit points is hit. It should be 4, otherwise 5. Not huge on, but not the worst thing. Oh man, I need to catch up on chat. You saw, well, True Learn, and I'm wondering about that one. It says it uses data science, which I'm planning to take a class on. It has the graph thingy with the boxes and the lines. It's quite, somebody, find the most relatable register to be RIP BC, but that's how I feel when I can't find the source of a bug. Rest in pointers. Nice, yeah. Okay, target hit points should be 5 at the beginning. We're gonna do the attack. It should be a hit. If it was a hit, then those are the hit points we expect. Okay. I'm gonna run this. It should fail because the hits didn't lower the hit points. Okay, so the falses were fine, but the trues were there. So let's take a look at the character. So this, we'll call that the result. Which actually, it's not just a result. We're going to use it. So I'm going to say is hit. And we'll say if is hit, then target. This is not the way that that we should do it long term. I don't like this. Yeah. We'll lower the target hit points. Now, here's what I don't like about this. I don't like the fact that this method is altering the other target's value. I kind of feel like we almost need to reverse this and be like, you receive an attack, not you. But we're so simple into this that I don't want to resolve that kind of a structural issue just yet. I want to make this test pass, and we'll get a few more things in place before we start thinking about how we want this to be structured. Exactly. Yes, the Grumpy Dev. Precisely. We both don't want it altering other instances of it, and we also don't want it to contain all the logic of everything that goes on. That being said, I do think that the character object should be responsible for receiving the damage from an attack. And it may be that we eventually get to the point where we have this concept of, here's the, attack that's coming at you, and that's like something that, you have to have, that you receive an attack from the target attacking you. Are you making mods for the game, or are you one of the developers? Rust compiler for what game? We're just doing the EverCraft Kata. So, I do make mods for kind of a mod for another game. I build a Twitch interactivity application. So, for Final Fantasy VII. So I am the primary developer for an application that lets chat control Final Fantasy VII while someone's streaming it. Recording the hit points are the player's responsibility. The character should. You're thinking the player. We'll get to that when we get to that. You might be talking about something in the explanation, but yes, the character itself should lower its own. It should lower its own hit points. I wonder what the source code for Elder Scrolls looks like, since that series has such bizarre bugs. Oh yes, Dragon. I'm sure that all the Elder Scrolls games have some fantastic, strange things in their code base, because they have to take a lot of shortcuts to be able to run those games, especially in the earlier versions. The game master should do it. There you go, Fuel Snable. We could call it the storyteller. Character can be damaged. If the roll's a nat 20, then a critical hit is dealt and the damage is doubled. Damage target on attack hit. Okay. Do I want to... I kind of feel like I want to test case these pieces and say, instead of doing the expected hit points, I kind of want to put the expected hit points on the end. Instead of doing this. So I'm going to extract that, and we're going to rerun this to make sure that it still works. So we're refactoring the test. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to add an additional case to make our next failing test, and so I wanted to get to the structure where we could test that. So in this case, I'm going to try passing in a 20, and we're going to say, did they say to double it? If the attack is successful, they take 1 point of damage when hit. If the roll's a nat 20, then a critical is dealt and the damage is doubled. Okay, so... Oh, and they also seem to have an ability to check if someone is dead. That's interesting. There is an actual game called EverCraft now? Really? Has it always been... You know, I'm going to search for stuff off stream. When did this come out? EverCraft is a game. It is a mod to Minecraft, it looks like. EverCraft MineQuest? What are these things? EverCraft game. What is this? Oh, here's a game. EverCraft. Three years ago, this one? Hassam, take care. Have a good one. And yes, so I will mention that there are also recordings. Our YouTube channel also has recordings of all of our episodes. So if you do miss an episode, you can actually find recordings of these on YouTube as well. Those are always a few days delayed. Yeah, so there seemed to have been a few years ago, people went and grabbed the name EverCraft and did stuff with it. So this is a decade-old kata. So I couldn't find any references to like an EverCraft game that is more than a decade old. So yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I had no idea that someone had gone and Guy should sue. Exactly. No, I don't think because Guy, I don't think Guy ever went and trademarked or anything like that, so he can't sue. But the difference is that they can't, they certainly can't sue him over it, even if they did trademark it, because he, like, if he was using it first, I don't think there's anything they can do about it. Because he clearly had published it. It is like published on the internet at least. Um, Oh, Root Guy, I've got a lot of tips for that, but hang on a second. Yeah, take care. Have a good one. Thank you for hanging out. And you saw a video that would cut content for Oblivion, and they wanted NPCs to be more realistic and interact with the world, but what ended up happening is with NPCs would buy all the items and all the show. Yeah, so the interesting thing, Dragon, is Oblivion actually had some of that concept in it. It had there were characters, and they were their characters were designed to actually behave normally and go places. And I think I think what you're referring to is there's rumor and probably confirmed rumor at this point that they'd given those NPCs more independence originally, and they ended up with a lot of problems as a result. But those NPCs in Oblivion really do some of that stuff. They do some of those, like, trying to. They have like a goals and things like that they're working on, and those really do cause some interesting outcomes in that game. It's one of the reasons why Oblivion is thought of as such a great game, despite the fact that someone could objectively say, well, Skyrim is better. It's like, well, yeah, Skyrim's newer, and they learned from the things that happened in Oblivion. That doesn't mean that there were not some really neat things about Oblivion that do not exist in Skyrim. So interesting stuff there. It's a good game series. Any tips on how? So quickly learning a new code base. Okay, there's a couple of answers. Change, it depends on the circumstances. If you want to learn a new code base and you have other people, pair program with someone working on fixing bugs and things like that throughout the system, because you're going to have to go and do that. The couple of things that gives you the chance to do: first off, it lets you learn from someone that already knows the code base, and you can actually just pick their brain for information while you're pairing through that. The second thing, the reason why I suggest doing bug fixing, is because you can do unit testing for those bugs by doing regression tests. So that lets you learn about how the testing frameworks and everything are set up in the project. You also can look at existing, you'll get to look at the existing test code to see how it's set up, to see where it was deficient in catching the bug, because either you're needing to add additional cases to something or adjust how existing tests work, or you need to add new tests in order to find what was wrong. So that's one of the reasons why I recommend doing this approach. There's also that bug fixing is going to get you around to a lot of parts of the system, but not deep dive into it. That's why I like it as a good starting point. It sort of gives you an idea of what is available, what's there, what should be working. And then lastly, the reason why I suggest that is that if you're working on bug fixing, that usually is going to get deployed sooner than if you were working on new features, where a lot of times you'll have like a toggled off feature that won't necessarily go into production just yet. And so that gets you the chance to understand the deployment processes and other things like that are in the code base as well. So that's one of the reasons why I like pairing up with someone on bug fixing and things like that. That's not always a circumstance that you can do. If you can't do that, there are other things as well, but I highly recommend you get the code base running and get the tests running, because that will help you with a lot. And yes, exactly. The grumpy game dev, they come to write tests in the code base and you'll learn it quickly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you establish a relationship with the rest of the development team because you really are leaning on them for expertise, which is a great thing to do as a new person joining onto a team. Yeah. Okay. So let's jump back to this. So we're expecting this test to fail because we have not written the code that should make it succeed. So we're expecting the roll of a 20 to give us back extra damage. It did not. It instead gave us back the exact same damage. So let's go in and adjust how attack works. If it is a hit, do that. But I think that I can do this instead. So we said a 20. Is 20 always a hit? What if their AC is 20? We haven't talked about criticals. What do we mean, natural? Oh, yeah. Don't worry about the word natural. That is, D&D people know that, yes, I think we're actually passing a modified roll. You're right, Grumpy Game Dev. I don't know on that one yet. The instructions are not really clear on that yet. So I guess we'll say if it's a hit. So only if it's a hit am I going to do this. Because we haven't been told that a critical is an automatic hit yet. If the roll is a 20, then I am going to say... so that's all I'm going to do for now. So if for some reason a 20 wasn't a hit, based on those instructions, I'm going to do that. Which someone's going to look at this and be like, oh my god, you nested the ifs. Don't worry, it's temporary code anyway. and I'm not like... I'm not pushing this up. I'm not sending it out. This is not getting PR'd in this state. You always still have to refactor. So you have until you actually push the code somewhere to get it to the state you like. Exactly, yes. But Grumpy Game Dev, that is the point. The point I was trying to make is that you can call it temporary as long as you're not pushing it anywhere yet. As soon as you're going to be pushing it out somewhere, then it may still be somewhat temporary, but like if it's only on your machine, it doesn't matter how ugly the code is. Don't worry about it. You have time to fix it. All right, let's run this again while I read the instructions again. When hit points are 0 or fewer, the character is dead. Now, do I want to say is dead or I want to say is alive? There's two thoughts on that. Dead could be some kind of status, but I think I just want to make a Boolean is dead right now. So, character should fact be dead if hit points are 0. Easy enough. Character hit points equals 0. I can't set it. I didn't allow that to happen yet. I guess I could do this. Uh, 19, 19, 19. Hit points should be 0. Right? You mean there's temporary code that does not ship? Occasionally, Renee. Occasionally, the temporary code is not shipped to production, but that's why I specified pushed. So you don't want to push the temporary code to GitHub is the idea, or wherever it is that your centralized source control is. Hey, C Films, welcome. Glad you're doing well. Welcome to the stream. All shipped code is temporary. Not all temporary code ships. One generally doesn't ship the tests, for instance. That's true. You usually don't want to ship your tests because there's no reason. I guess you could run them in production. I don't know why you would. Yeah, I don't think you should, though, Phil Snable. So before I add that, I just want to confirm that I'm correct here, that attacking all those times will get me to 0. Good. So this code works. That's fantastic. This is the code that should not work. Target dot is dead should be true. We will create this property. It is a Boolean, and its value is going to be throw new not implemented exception. All right. Now, the reason I want to do that is that's a nice way of confirming, yes, I definitely called that code. Yes, this test definitely can fail if there is something wrong with it. Okay, so now we have that, and I'm going to say false. And you go, wait a minute. And that is to make sure that my test is right, that my test is definitely checking that value, and that it really is going to look for that Boolean. Expected is dead to be true, but found false. So, why didn't this work? Ah, here we go. True. No, not a problem, Renee. We're all trolly. Okay, so that code works. All right, let's fix that though. Doesn't actually die till that last hit point disappears. Did I do that right? Yeah, false. Because I switched it to true. So it shouldn't be true. It should be they are dead if hit points less than 1. I don't know if we allow negatives, so I'm going to say less than 1. Which I don't know that the instruction said that. I think it said 0 or fewer. Good. Haha. So hit points less than 1, we should say is dead. There we go. Excellent. Instructions. What do we got? Character has ability scores. Strength, Dex, Con, Wiz, Int, Caw. 1 to 20 and default to 10. What is this? This is such a strange and foreign scale that I've never seen before. Clearly, I don't know what game this is that is being developed here. Can't possibly figure it out. So, default values at creation. That sounds like we're adding to this. Character. Strength. Should be 10. Strength. Dexterity. Constitution. Wisdom. Intelligence. And charisma. Whoops. Abilities range from 1 to 20 and default to 10. Abilities have modifiers according to the following table. Okay. Int. Okay. Wisdom. Intelligence. Whoops. Charisma. Okay, let's have this test fail because the values are not correct yet. We'll set those defaults. looks nothing like D&D version 3+. Are you kidding, Grumpy Game Dev? with the AC value, I'll give you that. But the attributes, that could go back to first ed D&D for that set. Okay, so these need their default values. And welcome, one. I don't know if that's one Tazy or Itacy or something. Thank you for that. Greetings. I like it when people say hello when they get here. Welcome, welcome. Let's see if that set of defaults works nicely. I don't have restrictions on the values. I'm not going to bother with, like, let's make sure the attributes have this, restriction of actually being within 1 and 20. I'm not going to bother with that right now. Abilities have modifiers according to this table, to the following table. Okay. I almost wonder if this merits its own, like, little structure for these values. For the attributes, because I'm thinking about that for a second, and these definitely always need to be paired up. So it might be that we do need to set that. Like a little attribute struct. So instead of doing int, we do an attribute. But I don't know that it's strictly necessary yet, because we don't do anything with the modifiers. I kind of feel like until it tells me to do something with them, I really don't. Okay, so hang on. Character ability. So we're going to use them now. Add the strength modifier to the attack roll and the damage dealt, and double the strength modifier on a critical hit. Isn't that just doubling the damage? I don't think they really mean double twice. Minimum damage is always 1, even on a critical hit. Got it. So so they're saying if you have a negative strength modifier, that would reduce your damage. So you always do 1, even if your the calculation of your damage would be below that. Makes sense. Add dexterity modifier to armor class. Add constitution modifier to hit points, always at least 1 hit point. Okay. So now we're getting into some real things with this, and we're really having to use these values. So let's write some code. Let's get our attributes right. So I'm going to make some tests on the attributes specifically, and we're going to make an attribute class, because I think we should use it. So let's say attribute should. Fact. Have modifier values. Have specific default to 10. That is a great point, Grumpy Game Dev. That is a very good point. You know what? This attribute thing is going to kill me because it's going to be a system attribute if I do that. C# is going to mess me up here. I'm going to make it an attribute. I'm going to make it an attrib. Even though I don't like it, I'm going to do it. Attrib should be 10. Now, do I make these... so I think I want to give it a value and a modifier. I know, right? That's the challenge. Like... Well, alright. Yeah, you win. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. We'll just have to fight this when we get there. This is the value. That's the value of the attribute. Should default value to 10. Yeah, I know, Grumpy Game Dev. I know. Luckily, class with a capital C I don't think is a reserved word, so I think I can get away with it, but yeah, I know. I have worked in a handful of organizations where we have language problems because of that sort of thing. So developers like to name services, for example. Like, that's an overloaded word in programming. So you might have like, oh yeah, this is the such and such service, and you know, like that's one of our generic, like our overly generic words that programmers will use to name classes that do something. And the problem is there are many different businesses and domains where service has a meaning. Like, oh, that's one of the services we sell, or oh, we're giving a I've worked with code for religious organizations before where they would have services. I've worked in the funeral industry before, and guess what? Funeral services. So you get services, and then they're just there. That's not the only Then there are other domains that have similarly overlapping words. Yes, manager collection service repository controller. Exactly. And the problem is there are some domains where you have managers. If you're doing any like HR style applications, you have managers. Like, managers within the company are a thing. This is my manager. You know, I don't think you really have that one, but you could. And yes, there are things with controllers. There are things like there are domains where repository is a word that you need in that. Yeah, it's just gets messy. Anyway. So default value to 10. Did this not run? I thought I ran these. Did I not run these? Test failed. Good. There we go. So attribute did not default that value to 10. But I don't think I can do this. I think I need to put this in a constructor. There we go. But this value needs to get passed in through the constructor, doesn't it? Can it make it value? And can I default that? Okay, so there's how I can default value the attribute type. Now I'm going to move this out into the core project as a class called attribute. A class, I mean struct. But since I copy-pasted it, it doesn't matter anyway that I picked the wrong one when I did that. Mr. One Dev, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Much appreciated. The funeral service. Exactly, Fuel Snable. Funeral service is absolutely could be a thing. I worked on a machine which was built up from modules. ReSharper had fun on that. Yes, exactly. Yes, precisely. When you get those things and you're like, no, this is, I promise this is, the other one is, some programs anytime you have something that's an event also, it's like, oh yes, events. Because we don't have those in programming at all. What is the function of this function? Yes, function is another. Yes, exactly. You could have a function. A function could be something that a function is similar to an event within some organizations. Like, yeah, we're putting on this function. Here's my function. You have function in the name of your function? As like, yeah, a developer might be confused by that. Okay, so that's that attribute. Yep, this is an EverCraft attribute. Attribute value should be 10. And run the test. Do you work? What? You don't work? Why don't you work? What is your failure? Expected value to be 10, but got 0? Did it not respect my default? I am suspicious. It didn't respect my default. Did I have to oh! It's a struct. It didn't even call that. I'm an idiot. It didn't do it. So the code I had a moment ago is the code we're going to use in the long term. I think I had to do this. But no, but that's not allowed. But no, I can't do that. Can I just not do... Anyway, this is the one that we want. We want this. This is not correct. We want to pass in the value, I think. I think the default's not coming from here. Okay, welcome. Thanks for that follow. Greetings. What is the function of this function? Oh, I know, really good one. Tree. Oh, yes, trees are good too. It's quite common to be an engineer to dislike JavaScript. Do you? Oh, fancy yellow. That is a fantastic question. There have been times in the lifespan of JavaScript that I would say yes. I disliked JavaScript. I disliked JavaScript in the early 2000s, pre jQuery. JavaScript during that time period was just a pain in the butt and it's not really JavaScript's fault, and it was a pain in the late 90s as well. And again, it's not JavaScript's fault. I mean, it does have some weird things in the language, but the biggest problem with it was browsers and the DOM. It got much better once jQuery came around, and then JavaScript became much easier to use. So that's when I would say jQuery was suddenly not a language where you would just dreaded working with it, because JavaScript really didn't mean JavaScript. It meant JavaScript on a browser, which, if you only had to support one browser, was totally fine. But if you had to support more than one browser, or more than one version of a browser even, JavaScript was a pain in the rear. That being said, pretty much in that time frame, pretty much all front-end development was a real pain back then. It has gotten much better. So circumstances have changed since then, and now JavaScript is actually much easier to work with. That being said, there are still the occasional thing that just makes you go like, wait, what? I will cite the this keyword. This in JavaScript is nightmare fuel. And yes, the grumpy game dev is 100% correct. ES6 is probably the biggest leap. When once ES6 came around, you can really say JavaScript is great to work with. So yes, I do like JavaScript. Sadly, I've had to not work with JavaScript for I had about a year where I didn't really get to mess with JavaScript in my day job because I the clients I was working with, I was doing mostly back-end stuff, and so I was stuck in C# land. So now I'm having to like de-rust my brain on JavaScript a little bit to re-get used to it and re-remember all that stuff. But yes, JavaScript has been great, and there have been so many great frameworks that have been around. So like when Knockout came around and Underscore came around and all of these things started coming around, it was like it's like, wait a minute, I can just start binding things? This is fantastic. This is like what I do elsewhere. And you're like, this is wonderful. This is like, you're suddenly like, this is really starting to get not bad. And I get components and all this stuff. It's like, this is great. VB6 and Delphi was, no, Fuel Snable, quit trolling. I'm just kidding. Fuel Snable, you can keep trolling. That's fine. It's quite common for parent-child. Hello. Yes, hello, welcome, and thank you again for that follow. If anyone else hasn't clicked the follow button, be sure to do so, as it's the best way to get notified when we go live. Should be names related to anything in the world. What are good libraries to start with after learning the basics of C# libraries? You mean like NuGet packages to learn? First off, I would say make sure that you know a good unit testing framework in C#. So you can pick XUnit or NUnit. I highly recommend, yes, Newtonsoft for all of your JSON needs, JSON. So that is a lot of how web dev is going to work. I don't know whether you're doing web dev, client dev, Unity, whatever. MOQ, that is a great suggestion, the Grumpy Game Dev. So MOQ is actually the mocking framework that we use on most of our projects as well. What are some other good things that you want to have a look at? Some people are big fans of AutoMapper, so AutoMapper can do some crazy things. It's basically it is a library basically that's for like mapping two objects with like based on convention, or you can define specifics. So if you have like a DTO that you pass down in your API or receive from your API, something like that, and you need to switch from that to your model objects because you don't want to allow the automated binding to bind to your model objects because that's a giant security risk. AutoMapper is a way to do that. AutoFac is good. I would pick your favorite IOC container. It doesn't have to be AutoFac. Make sure you look at the IOC containers in C#. That's a reasonable one. There's some other ones as well. EF and Dapper are going to be great choices to look at for your ORM. So EF because it's like the default like Microsoft sanctioned choice. By sanction, I guess I mean Microsoft recommended choice. Dapper is one of the big ones that'll be recommended from the community, so take a look at Dapper's another great choice also. Why do you need Newtonsoft now that the core has its own JSON serialized? Cryptic Enigma, you don't need to use JSON Newtonsoft stuff now that it's in there. You're absolutely correct, Enigma. But knowing it is still useful. So if you're jumping into C# and you don't know it, you're gonna run into it everywhere. So get used to seeing it. And I like the style that Newtonsoft's JSON.NET stuff works. So and yes, and Hibernate is still around. You can still use it. I have used nhibernate multiple times in the past and really tried to like it. I have had some success with it in projects. It probably and I know that it can work well because I've seen a lot of good projects with it, but it has caused me more problems than probably the other one, than some of the other like current choices for ORMs. Yes, exactly. Code with Sean is correct. He was hired. The funny thing is, he got hired onto Microsoft a while ago. Like, it wasn't even like a recent acquisition. Like, because they basically just they hired him on, and it was funny because it's like, well, I guess that makes sense because his like Newtonsoft JSON stuff like pretty much shows, yes, you should be bringing him on to work with you because it's like he built a thing that's basically the de facto standard. In fact, you're replacing your own JSON serialize and deserialize with his. So it's like, yeah. It's just funny. Okay, so anyway, back to this. I want to jump into this code again. So I kind of don't want to have this here anymore because I don't think that's doing anything. Because that's just like setting a property, which it feels like a worthless test to me at this point. I don't think it was originally, but I feel like it is now. Actually, I kind of want to keep those. So great question, and if you're new to our stream, by the way, there's a reason it's called DevChatter, because we are just going to talk about stuff. In fact, we've had entire episodes where we were just chatting and we did like interviews. So we've done some interview episodes where I've brought on guests and we've just chatted with them the whole time. So, but I don't. Funny enough, I haven't done those in like 2 years. No, maybe a year and a half. It's probably the last time I did a conversation where we just talked with someone. And yes, DevChatter, this stream is 2.5 years old now, I think. It's been around quite a while. And that's 2.5 years of consistently streaming over that time period. Technically, DevChatter got created like 5 years ago. I just didn't start streaming right away. Because, you know, that's just sort of, you know, how things work. Let's go with a theory. I'm just going to make the whole set of tests right now. Alright, guy. Where's your stuff? 1 is a -5. So this will be value modifier. Alright, so that's the value. And yeah, value. Value should be the value. Modifier. Modifier should be the modifier. So we're going to add that property. That's going to be an int also. But this one's not going to get set by that value in the constructor. This one's going to have to do something else, I guess. Can I do this? We'll do that. We'll just say that it's going to return back 0 for now, which is a great way to have failing tests. So that'll be 2 and 3, and this will be the -4s. -3s. -2s, -1s, the 0s, the -0s. I guess, why not? Those are the 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and then the 5. So that's 20, 19, that's all the 2-digit ones. So let's go ahead and seven, 8, 9. There we go. All right, not bad. Enjoying ghost hair? Oh, yes. Yeah, my ghost hair. I know, right? Throw? Throw. Throw what? Should I throw an exception on something? Alright, so 1 through 20. Oh, throw with the getter. Yeah, I can throw on the getter. That's what I did for all my other getters. It's just this one. Only 2 of these were going to pass. We were going to have 20 failures, or 18 failures instead of 20 failures. Now we get 20 failing tests. Now we should have 18 failing tests, assuming that we do this right. Okay, there's 18 failing tests. which is not bad. So we're getting better, we're getting better. So if I'd really written each of those cases as a separate thing each way, you could step through this and be like, okay, now we did 0. Okay, well, 12 is a +1, and then you if 12, and then you can do all the steps through like that. But I'm not going to do that. I don't know if there's a mathematical way to determine these, or if I should just switch statement it, and I'm not 100% on that. And actually, while I have a moment, let me just make sure that there's nothing going on my phone. There's nothing going on my phone. N minus 10 over 2. There you go. Well, if we start with that, well, will it not automatically floor it into the int? I thought it would. Well, we're about to find out. There we go. Expected 4, but found -3. Oh, excuse me. Math.floor. But that's going to give me back the decimal value for that one. Guess I'll just cast it. Iont. I thought there was a floor that just did this. What are numbers? No. I thought floor would do that. Alright, let's think for a second. Why is this complaining? That wants a decimal value. I guess I can make this a decimal. I could say 2f. Which just seems silly. Also, modulo on negative values is similarly hosed. Yeah, I much prefer doing it on positive numbers. That's one of the reasons why I often steer people towards doing unsigned values whenever they can. Like, if you don't need the negative, just use positive numbers, because there are a handful of cases that get really weird when you get into negatives. So it's like if you don't need to, just kind of avoid it, because you don't need it most of the time. And it's like, oh, we need to make sure we handle it. It's like, or just dodge the negatives entirely. Just change your system. That's the advantage of being the one that writes the code. With the goodness that things like arrays use int for their length and not unsigned. Oh yeah. So not only can they not have negative array length, not length, but yes, exactly. So they use an int for the length, but not only that, they use an int for the indexer, and the ridiculousness of that is they then don't allow the negative index and instead have implemented a separate way doing the hat operator, the caret, in order to reverse index into the array. And so that's like, wait a minute, why didn't we just use negatives? You already have us using negatives. And it's like, okay, yeah, well, I guess I can say that it's a breaking change, because if a developer had been relying on the negative to throw an exception for a safety from that, I guess. Yep. Exactly, Grumpy Game Dev. That's so the funny thing is that automating of that is actually one of the things that people don't like about JavaScript also, is the fact that in JavaScript it will just change the type on you to make whatever you were trying to do work. And it's like yeah, that's maybe a thing. The reason we have signed int lengths of arrays, Java had. Yeah, that's probably true. Java doesn't have unsigned ints? Really? Guess I never thought about it. Okay, so we did that so that we could get rid of these. So we're going to shift that to attribute instead of those values. That is either Ward with 13 in his name. First off, thank you for following. Welcome to the stream. While I try to figure out your name, that could also be W Bard. And hello there, greetings, welcome. If anyone else hasn't, Wizard. That's another perfectly valid way to do that. That is absolutely a wizard. See, you got, so that's why I was like, sometimes names need an explanation. See, the funny thing is, when I said Bard, like, that's on the right track, and you can see the Bard now, can't you? Can you see Bard? I can see Bard in that name. Yeah, exactly. It's W Bard. What do you mean? Hang on while I grab a player's handbook from within reach. See? Player's handbook within reach. Clearly, you are the Bard. Who doesn't stream with a player's handbook within reach at all times? Come on. Okay, Ooh, I want to do something evil. I want to do something evil. Do you all want to do something evil? Tell me you want to do something evil. Do you want to do something evil? I kind of want to do something evil. I kind of want to do something evil. Should I do it? I'm going to do it. Oh, does this work on a... I think, yeah, this should work on a struct. This should work on a struct. All right, here, we're gonna do evil. It's evil time, everyone. Public static that was a bad sound. How do you do it? It's attribute with an int value. Is that the way you do it? Yes! Ah! Ah, evil thing. There we go. Okay, so have a look. So this right here. So I had a compiler error right here moments ago. You all saw it. Let me bring it back. I'll remove this code. We'll comment that out. There's our evil. So what am I doing here? I am assigning the value 10 to an attribute. And you go, 10? 10's not an attribute. Clearly that is an integer that you have defined there. But if I go and I create the implicit operator for creating an attribute from an integer, then automatically C# can just say, oh, you have an int, you're trying to store this int, you're trying to use this int as if it were an attribute? Okay, I know how to do that. It'll call that code, and yay, you have an attribute instead of an int. So, compiler error gone. What headphones are you wearing? So these are some bone conductive headsets, so actually my ears are totally unblocked, so I can actually hear other stuff going on. So that way, if like, so on weekends, for example, I stream while my son is napping. So this is actually nap time in the middle of the day. But if I like start hearing him like fussing and crying or something like that, it's a toddler. So if he gets really upset or something like that, I then know like, okay, I do need to like cut this stream short so I can go assist with that. I haven't heard him in a while, so my guess is that he's still asleep. But who knows? Yes, no, Renee, I know. That's tread with caution. I said evil. I didn't say good. I said evil. That we know this is evil code. Yes, exactly. So these are bone conductive, and I will show you what they are. They are. Where does it say? It's got to say somewhere on here. Nope, it doesn't say. How do you make a product? Aftershocks. There you go. Something like this. Now that I think about it, I might link to them down below the stream. I don't know. Do I link to my headset down below the stream? Hang on. I am now wondering that. Do I? Are they down there? In like the Amazon thingamabobber? Yeah, they are. Yeah, the headset I'm wearing is down there. So if you look down below the stream, if you're on a web browser, you can actually find, like I've got in my like little affiliate panel box thingy, there's actually links to mine. Rally ho! Welcome, Suna. Greetings. Welcome to the stream. You made it. Understood was making inference very complicated. I forgot what. The implicit constructor was a great idea in C++. You're trolling now. Oh, yes. And yes, Renee, you're absolutely right. You need to be careful about using the implicit operator, basically the implicit conversions of types. It is absolutely an evil thing. But oh yeah, no problem, Suna, no problem. But it can do some cool stuff, and there are actually some cases where it is very useful and important to know that it is there, which also is a good indication. If you ever see code that is like this, just know that in order for that to happen, someone has that implicit operator somewhere, so you can go and look for that and find this, and this is the code that's getting run. So if you're ever wondering about that, that's what it is. Just be glad that Guy Royce isn't here, because man, if that guy showed up, we'd have one too many guys in this stream. How's it going, Guy? Welcome to the stream. Some say operator is evil, but I like yes, exactly. There's one too many guys in the stream. When a guy is named Guy. Okay, so we just did some horribleness, Guy. You'd be glad to know about that. I have been talking way too much about like just various programming stuff because DevChatter, so we're gonna chat about stuff. 2 guys enter, 1 guy leaves. I hope not. I don't want Guy to leave. I was just teasing. We like Guy here. Guy's great. But I will point out that I'm still not planning on letting Guy tell us what he did or did not mean in these instructions. I'm just going to read them and make my own guesses. The Thunder Code. Thunderdome jokes are going to fall flat. But I'm ching. No, so we need to add those strength modifiers to stuff. So let's make some thingies. So we need to change how attacks and damage are done. So since we started off with default values, there is not a need to change those ones. They can just like the existing stuff, since they were all zeros, that's all standard case. So we defaulted to 0, so we don't need to do anything. Guy, don't leave! We were just kidding! Okay, so... attack should... I'm gonna make an entirely separate thing just for attacking, because attacking feels complicated enough that it merits its own set of tests. Unlike all the like character initialization-y type stuff. Public void test 1. There we go. Now, anybody that's been here before knows that I just do like a crappy name to begin with because I don't really know what I'm testing until I start fleshing it out. And I sometimes come up with something along the way that makes sense. So let's make a new character. We make a character. This character will be named character. And actually, I'm going to do this. Character initialized from the constructor, and it is read-only. Yeah! Character dot... what do we want to do for this one? We want to say... dexterity? Strength? We'll do a strength test first. Strength equals 1. So we'll set his strength to 1. Have him attempt to attack. Character. Attack. I guess we could have him attack himself. That would be funny. New character. And with a roll that should still hit. So that is a -5. We hit on a 10. So a 15 should still hit. Result should be true for that one. Okay. Guy Royce is here. Then you're in the right place. That is correct, Code Washan. This is the right place. Can we make Rogue this time? Rogue? Why are you hitting yourself? Yeah, exactly. Rogue. What do you mean, the Grumpy Game Dev? Do you want to? You actually want to build a Rogue game, like a Rogue clone? We long time ago built a Rogue game that you play on screen. We made like a little pixel art Rogue clone. It's like it was designed to be played on Twitch, so like chat would actually give the instructions, and like it played on my screen right here next to me. We did that a long time ago. Oh, you were yes, making a rogue. Yes. I'm just calling it character. It could be hero. I don't think it matters. Anyway, so we're setting its strength to 1, and we're gonna say attack. That result should be true. This test is gonna pass. So maybe I should go the other way. Say 14 and false, because this is going to be the failing test right now. So this is the test that causes us to have this, and now I'm going to rename it so that it has a better name. That test did pass. Now it fails. Both as expected. You always use hero because character is often a reserved word, so is class. Yes! So Guy, we're going to run into that on in C#. We're going to run into that on class. So I don't know what we're going to do with that one. We can technically, like, there is a way of escaping that name, so I think it's an @ sign. Schrodinger's test, yes. Okay, so what is our test? What are we testing? Attack should... yeah, @ sign, yep. Use dexterity modifier should modify attack roll by dexterity modifier. Maybe I'll say adjust by. That way it's not like modify. Adjust attack roll by dexterity modifier. Maybe that's good. Would you recommend any resources in particular for TDD? So, if you want to get started... oh, is it strength? Yes. That's literally what I wrote right there. Streamer has no class jokes coming in. Yeah, thanks, Fuel Snable. So my recommendation for learning TDD would be twofold. First off, do some practice TDD stuff to make sure you get used to the motions, get used to all the syntax, and get used to all the stuff that you're trying to do. Step 2, grab a refactoring kata like the Gilded Rose kata, which we've done here on the stream a couple of times, I think. So Gilded Rose is from a game, so you'll need to make sure that you put in kata on there. But that kata is designed to be a refactoring kata, so I recommend if you're trying to get into TDD, do some refactoring katas, because that gets you used to adding tests to an existing project, because most of us don't work on greenfield projects, most of us are working with existing projects. That being said, even if you didn't like out the gate get everything tested, which is also really common on a greenfield project, even if you're trying to TDD it, a lot of teams won't actually get everything TDD'd, and you need to get used to adding some of that in after the fact. And then lastly, I would say you need to start doing it on your projects and make mistakes and mess it up. And then there is a book I would recommend that you get after you started doing TDD and messed up a little bit. Go grab a copy of Working Effectively with Legacy Code. You'll find a link to that down below the stream as well in the little Amazon panel. Not that you have to buy it at Amazon. You can buy that book anywhere. I'm pretty sure you can still buy copies of that. I don't know how, like, in print it still is, but Working Effectively with Legacy Code is a book that will definitely help you with that. And as Guy mentions, pair program with other people that are going to be TDDing. So if you and your team are planning on doing TDD, you need to have the buy-in from your team and work together on it. Hang on 1 second. Okay. All right, there we go. Yes, exactly. Oh yeah. Alan, yep, that's I must have read that book in like 2009, 2010 or something like that, sometime a long time ago, and I'd already been doing TDD, and I was already doing unit tests, and what I was running into was I was doing integration tests, sometimes well and sometimes poorly. So what that book ended up doing for me was letting me know which of the things I was doing already that were right and which one of them I was not yet. And so it was nicely eye-opening, because if you go and do some of this on your own, you're going to get an idea of like what kinds of pitfalls you run into. And I'll tell you right now, you're going to get some things right. You're going to, and right for definitions of right. You're going to have some things where you like the solution you did for it, and books like that are going to recommend the same thing you did, and you're going to be like, that's great confirmation that other people agree that this is a good way of doing things. It's a way that works. And then you're also going to find, oh, hey, that's a really good idea. So, for example, I absolutely did wrapper classes, and I would like wrap a class and you know, have an interface on that, because I'm like, I need to mock this thing out. It doesn't have a way to do that, so I'm just going to wrap this around it, hide it away, and you're like, oh, now I can test it. And you read that in the book, and you're like, oh, hey, yeah, I was doing that. That's right. And oh, hey, yeah, I was injecting this. It's like, oh, okay. So like, it's good confirmation of those sorts of things, and lets you see how it works. Yep. Okay, adjust attack roll by strength modifier. Yep, okay, so strength of 1, that should miss, and I think I've adjusted the name, but I'm going to run it again just to be sure that that's all I adjusted, and it should still fail. Okay, it fails, expected it to be false, but found true. Okay, so let's have a look at attack. Same goes for Fowler's refactoring. You read it and think, yes, that is obvious. So not with all of that. So like, you want to have some things that you want to have experienced the concept that those types of books are talking about, and then you're going to say, okay, yes, those. So for many of the things, you're going to be like, yep, I was doing that one. That one makes sense. I'm good on that one. But it's gonna open your eyes to some other ideas that you hadn't thought about. That's the style of book that these are. They're sort of like ways of doing things. Okay, so if the role plus the strength modifier so role plus the strength modifier is that. Yep. Excellent. Let me just run all the tests to make sure, because I altered the attack, and that is tested elsewhere. So if I broke one of the other ones, I want to know it. Character strength should be 10, but found... Yeah. That's just a test wrong. I forgot to rerun this test. Should be... I could write the implicit conversion back, I guess. But that's dangerous. And the reason is that I don't know whether you would do the conversion to the value or the modifier. Yeah. So, but that's why I don't want to do it. That is too evil, because you never set a value. You never set an attribute based on that, and we certainly haven't been told that. But you don't set attributes based that way. So the value equates to an identifier. You don't know whether the person wants to use the value or the identifier. So we defined the modifier not as a value you set. The modifier is based on what the value is. So because of that, the value is the core one for setting, and you could be extracting out either one. So no implicit conversion away from it. Rerun all tests, just real fast. Okay, all tests are passing again. Yay! We're good. Okay. So let's go ahead and make this a theory with some inline data. Inline data, and we're going to say the strength value, the attack roll, and the result. So that is int strength, int roll, and int expected. Bool expected? Derp. Bool expected. Okay, so strength is strength. That is the roll. And this is the expected value at the end. This, again, we've just essentially extracted variables, that's all. So I'm going to rerun the test. We should still pass here. We do. Okay, so we are thinking, then, that a 15 with a strength of 1 should be fine. A 2 would be a -4, so that would mean the 14 would be true. Now, the reason I'm doing this is going to help me check the edge cases. Hello, Brain. Welcome. Greetings. And let's do some of the positive ones. So if you have a strength of 20, that is going to be a +5, which means a roll of a 5 should succeed. A roll of a 4 would fail. A 12 would be a +1, so a 9 would succeed. So we'll do an 8 as a failure, and a 9 as a success. And we'll try those, and let's see what we get. And, yay! Okay, so those all seem to work. So that is, adjust the attack roll by the strength modifier. We now want to check that the damage gets adjusted. So, welcome to the stream, Brain. Are you planning on streaming? I assume you're not streaming today because it's really late for you to be streaming today. Excellent. Yeah, doing pretty well over here. My my allergies have been acting up. My nose was going a bunch earlier today, which is really annoying. It's got it's like one of those like, ugh. Well, welcome to just, you know, nerds. Spent your evening eating. Oh yeah, Mr. Robot's fun. I watched like a couple of seasons of that at the beginning or something like that. I watched some amount of it a long time ago, but I haven't seen it in a long time. So adjust attack damage. So we checked the attack roll. So that's like the 2-hit roll. This is adjusting the attack damage by the strength modifier. So instead of changing the roll and the expected of a hit or not, we're going to adjust what the damage is. So let's say expected expected hit points. So I'm going to pull this out as the target because I need to alter the target. Well, I need to verify. I want to verify a value of the target, I should say. Hit points should be 5. I just want to assert that at the beginning, and then we're gonna assume that a 19 is just that a 19 is just always gonna hit, because I think a 19 is always a hit on an AC 10, so that should always hit. Because we can't get a modifier lower than -5 right now. Oh, yeah, exactly, Guy. I too binged it a long time ago. And yes, he is an amazing actor, especially for that role. It is fantastic. Like, he does it so well, it's kind of ridiculous, actually. So we don't want the result, we want the target. Target hit points should be the expected hit points. Okay, I don't care what the result is. We're going to ignore that. So let's get rid of these, and we're going to say close that bracket. So those are the strength, and what damage do we expect? So the minimum damage is 1. So that should be 1. Adjust attack damage by strength modifier. Okay, so at -4, it should also still be just 1. So this is not taking into account a critical hit. So the minimum value is 1. I don't think I want a named test just to confirm the minimum value. If anything, I could just comment here. Min value of 1. Actually, let's just do this. We'll do the 9 then also. Should be... Min value of 1 damage. Okay, so then if we did a 20... their hit points should now be... That was 5, so that would be 6 damage, so they would be at -1. If they had an 18, the hit points should be 0. and a 12. Their hit points should be 3, I think is what we're saying. Now, we're going to have a stack of failed tests here. Brain lever. That is absolutely true. Developers, whenever we watch those things that have hacking, we are often impressed when they do valid things. So, interestingly, shows have started. So some shows have started getting fairly good with their hacking, because they do get the point across that a lot of attacks are actually just social engineering of getting a human to do like, basically the human is often the way around things. But then there's also, even in the stuff that's good, there are some like wait, what kinds of moments, like no, that's not a thing, no, that's not. And occasionally even the show, it's like, actually there are a few things that are actually worse. Yes, yeah, exactly. So Grumpy Game Dev is correct. So like, some stuff when we watch it, it's just like, we just sit there and we're like, it is too difficult for me to suspend disbelief on this, because it's like, that's not how any of this works. The classic one, which you've probably heard about, is like, this is Unix. Yeah, I know, right? Like, this is Unix. So as fun as, so I don't know if you've seen the movie Independence Day, like the aliens come to Earth, blah blah blah, blow up the spaceships thing. But the one that all the developers will freak out about every single time is like, it's like, how did you get a virus onto their computer? Like, I can't even take a Windows virus and put it on Linux or Mac or whatever and have it do anything. It doesn't even run there. Like, who even knows if their computers, like, do they use binary even? And then, like, even if they happen to, do binary, which binary is very, very potential for their computer systems, but like, they might not be using because binary is so simplistic. Base 2 could definitely be what they use for the computer systems, but their assembly code is not gonna match, or like the language, the instruction set's not gonna be the same. These aliens aren't running x86 processors or something. Yes, and like all the hacking everywhere. Yeah, when someone says, "Oh, this is a Unix system. I know what this is," like, you're like, "Wait, what? Okay, so it's Unix. Great. You don't know anything about their computer even." Like, anyway, it's just silly. Exactly. We have no idea even what, like, yeah, they might not be they could be some chemical weird thing. Like, we're not gonna have like adapters to just plug in. They don't have USB ports for us to plug our computer in. Their network's not the same. Like, nothing is going to work. Like, to understand the amount of time that it would take for someone to even do that. Now, and admittedly, they said they had their scientists working with these things for decades, but it wasn't the scientists working for decades that solved the problem. Yes. Thank you, Guy, for making a terrible joke. Oh yeah, that's right. Clearly the aliens are using Mac OS. That's exactly right. But Macs don't get viruses. Okay, so expected 0 but found 4. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put in the code that's gonna make this work, but I'm gonna ignore the minimum value. So these, I'm gonna let those fail and make the other ones pass, which, funny enough, is going to reverse it, because those are the ones that are passing right now, because they don't actually factor it in. So let's do that. So we're gonna make these be one of the ones that pass, and these be the ones that fail, because I think that's the better way to solve it. Because it also shows us that we're fixing it right. So we could even pretend these tests didn't exist at first. So, in fact, let's do that. That might make more sense to people if I do it this way. Okay, so I put in those. Let's jump over to attack. And the amount of damage that we did is... So I just said minus minus, which is fine. Minus equals... 1 plus the strength modifier? Was it 1 plus the strength modifier? Is that what it said? Hang on. Add the strength modifier to the attack roll and the damage dealt. add it to the damage. It said it deals 1, so I'm going to assume that the attack is 1+. That's what I'm going to assume, guy. I need to talk to whomever wrote these instructions and smack them around a bit. And by smack them around, I mean, you know, welcome them to the stream and be nice, because it's a good dude. Yeah, I'm going to do that for now. Yeah, that Walter guy. Yeah. George Walter. Is it actually, wait. Is it Walters or is it George Walter or George Walters? I don't know his last name. He's like the second or something like that, too. Isn't he? He's like the second? I don't know. You should get him on here so I can yell at him. Yeah, George Walters 2.0. There you go. Actually, I like him. He's a nice guy. It's just funny. I'd have gone with the tooth. Oh, yeah, the tooth. Yes. Yes, I got that. Yeah. Tooth. I don't know how to spell it. It wasn't funny. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do this one yet. Whoops. Backwards. No, we do terrible jokes on here too, guy. I talked about how we would avoid negative numbers and how that would be a positive for our program. Yeah, we've done plenty of terrible, awful things here on the stream, but that's just par for the course. And yes, they're horrible because I have a PhD in horribleness. I don't know who killed that a long time ago, but I just noticed that my colors were out. I don't know how long those have been out. So that's failing because I need to set the minimum value. Right, yes, that's what I did. Okay, int damage equals 1 plus strength modifier. So there we go. So I'm going to extract that out as a variable because I'm going to use it in a couple of places. So then the change that I want to make is, so I'm going to leave this as is for now, but I'm going to make it so that we double the value of this when applying that one. So that a crit doesn't, a crit for someone that has low strength still only does 1 damage, I believe. Even if they would have a negative number, I think is the way that it's written. So, math dots maximum value of 1 or that value. So it takes the higher of either 1 or your result, and that's your damage. Now, currently, crits are going to be wrong, but we're not to that step yet. Yes, so crit is damage times 2, but I thought it said... I need to read that part again, just to confirm how the crit works with the minimum damage. because I didn't do this isn't the crit check here. All right. Attack should double damage for critical hits. That's a reasonable name. Should double damage for critical hits. So let's do 20 there. Let me read that again. Double strength modifier on critical hits. Minimum damage is always 1, even on a critical hit. Yeah. So it sounds to me like even on a crit, the damage is still only going to be 1. So this, at a 9, it was 0. So 0, 0, so that's going to be 1. And on a plus 1, we should have... How much damage do we do on a plus 1? We do 4 damage. So that should be 1 left. 5, so that would be 6, so... That's -7. That's -5, I think. Let's do a number like 15, actually. So 15 is a plus 2, plus 3, so that's going to be 6 damage. And they started at 5, so this is -1. The plus 1, so that was 4 damage to that, yeah. Okay. Thank you for the confirmations there, Guy. And lucky for you, being a mod, Twitch actually lets you type the same message twice. Oh, and you didn't actually even type them twice. You had a dot on one and not on the other, which I didn't notice. Yep, only mods can send the same message twice in Twitch, though you can vary it just slightly and then it's okay with it. Okay, so we need to adjust the attack now, because I did this. So I want to say if it's a crit, so that's figuring out the damage. So I kind of want to extract this out as a method real fast. Yeah. Get base damage. Private method get base damage. That's the base do I even want to do that? I don't know. So I want to double that value. Which maybe I should get rid of the max on this and just adjust it after the fact. So I'm going to remove the max for now. We're going to do this. So we'll have this, and then we'll say damage, say if it was a crit, we'll just adjust the damage amount instead of modifying twice. So we will multiply that by 2 and assign it to its own value. But then when we do this, we're going to say math.maximum value of 1 or the damage amount. There, I like that approach. I think that works nicely. Let's see what we end up with. And yay! It worked! Woohoo! Okay. So that gets us that one. Let's add dexterity modifier to the armor class. Let's see. So should actually, that is not part of attack. That's part of armor class. Yay, oh, wait. Oh, no, the bot's not running. Son of a... Why did the bot not work? Let me... we didn't start my bot at the beginning of the stream. I assumed it was an OAuth issue because it didn't connect, and I didn't actually look at the output to see why it was failing. But it didn't say hi in chat, but it otherwise loaded, so that's why I was assuming it was an OAuth issue. Well, let me see if I can figure that out. Because if there is just a quick answer to why it didn't connect... why didn't you connect? Why didn't you connect? Yeah, for some reason the bot's not connecting, which is a real bummer because we have that nice, like, fireworks animation that we were using just last stream, just a few days ago. Anyway, it's a real bummer. I wanted to be able to do that. Okay, so let's jump over to character should. Theory with inline data. And I'll say 10 for now, and say public void adjust armor class by dexterity modifier. And that'll be dexterity. And expected AC. Just expected. So let's, so we have a character. We are going to assign that character's dexterity equal to dexterity. And then we are going to say character armor class dot should be expected. And the expected value with this is AC 10. If, however, the armor class is 12, the expected AC is... Or if the dexterity is 12, the expected armor class is 11. If... which... Actually, let's make 11 be 10 also. And 14 be 12. And 17 will be 13. Did this say a minimum? Can it go down? It can go below 10, right? Add dexterity modifier. Sounds like it can go under 10. So if this is 9, then that's 9. And if it's 1, then they have a negative 5, which means that that is a result of 5. And 8 is also a 9. Okay, there we go. I think I've got the basic set lined up there. These are going to be a bunch of failing tests, except for this one should be fine. So one of them is okay, but all the rest should be failing. So 6 tests failing, that looks about right. And the only ones that are okay are the AC 10s, which is correct. Because we haven't written it for the other one. So let's go to armor class, and I just put in 10. But really, we should say 10 plus dexterity modifier. And then that should work. I think. Fingers crossed. An anonymous cheerer. Oh, thank you, Anonymous. Wow, Guy. Well, have a good one. I'm just disturbed by dinner being ready at 4:40 in the afternoon. Guy is apparently a lot older than I realized. Are you going to the early bird special at Denny's? I actually have no idea if they have an early bird special. I don't know. And thank you for the 28 biddies, Anon. Much appreciated. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. If anyone else is enjoying the stream and hasn't clicked the follow button, be sure to do so, as it is the best way to get notified when we go live here on the stream. Last thing we gotta do here is Constitution modifier to hit points. Always at least one hit point, though. Okay. So that's the same type of test as this one. Adjust hit points by Constitution modifier. So that'll be Constitution. Constitution. It's a nice, easy word to spell. Hit points expected. Okay, so this should be 1. 2 should be 1. Prince Phase, thank you very much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Dinner can be lunch as well. This is somewhere in between. Yes, exactly. Okay, so if we do 20, that is a +5, so that means they have 10 hit points to start with. If they have a +2, they have 7 hit points to start with. If they have a +1, they have 6. If they have a 0, they have 5. 0 is 5. That is a -1 means 4. So they can go below, and we anchor at 1. Okay, so hit points, Constitution expected. That looks right. So we're going to start off by just blatantly subtracting it, and that's actually going to break the first ones. These ones where we, say the minimum value is 1, so you have to have at least 1 hit point. So we're going to say hit points equals... well, I guess for now we could just calculate it, because it didn't say not to. Well, no, we have to be able to set the value because we adjust it down. So starting hit points will be... That's an interesting problem. Because until you access them, they're not there. Ooh, see, this one actually throws us through a loop. Because the way we did it, because we don't require that you set these values on character creation. So because we assigned this value here, I think we actually need to go adjusting. I don't think we can do this test yet. So we need to do a bit of refactoring before we can handle that test. So here's a big thing, is if you are actually doing TDD, you'll reach points where you need to refactor based on your previous decisions and make an adjustment before you continue on. So we went without a constructor. We didn't even make one, because we figured we could get away without it. So now the question is, we have to... Actually, I should do this. Torp. Whoa, 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 whoa. Uh-oh. Oh no. Resharper has failed me. Resharper! Oh, man. String, name. Yeah, thanks, Resharper. Okay, alignment. Alignment equals neutral. You're okay with that, right? Yeah, okay, it's good. So that'll be that one. This will be this one. So let's remove these. Alright. The armor class is always set that way, but hit points need to get calculated in the constructor. There we go. So the initialization's now in the constructor, and it's going to be based on the constitution value. I'm not sure how we're going to adjust these later on. We're going to have to figure that out. Because we don't have, like, max hit points and current hit points. We didn't separate them yet. Yeah, it won't let me pass that in as a constructor value. It won't automate it. Int strength equals 10. Int dexterity equals 10. Int constitution equals 10. Int wisdom equals 10. Int. Intelligence equals 10, and int charisma equals 10. I kind of wish that Resharper had done that for me, but that's fine. So before we set the hit points, I want to see, will it put these in the right spot? Good. Initialize the auto properties. Fantastic. I'm glad that it figured out that it can do this. I was worried it wouldn't be able to figure it out because the implicit conversion. But it does. So we don't need those initializers anymore. And now for hit points, we're just going to say it is 5 plus the Constitution modifier. Now this is going to break the minimum one, the one that we put in for the minimum. There are no hit dice, so it becomes a weird issue of what happened when con goes up or down. That is very true, the grumpy game dev, which maybe we need to... We might change to just a maximum hit point value. There's not really a cost to having the constructor initialization, though. We can initialize this way, and it's fine. This shouldn't break anything. So right now, all of our existing tests should still pass. We're going to run that to confirm that we didn't break anything, even though we just refactored this. Okay, so all our current tests are passing. Let's add these ones in, and we'll have a look at what's going on with it. So now when we add this in, we should get still a failure because we didn't do anything here. But we need a different character. We want this character's constitution to be... We want their constitution to be the constitution value that we received. And this is going to be character, different one. And their hit points should be the expected value. Now we should fail on the ones that base to 1. Is there a link to what we're working on? Dungeon Smasher, yes. I have been posting it in chat every once in a while. There you go. Okay, so which tests failed? Only one test failed? Oh, because that was -4. Yeah, so only the 5. Only this one failed. That's the only one that holds the minimum value. So minimum of 1. And in order to make sure that works just fine, we're going to go in and say math.max 1 or that value. Now, do our tests succeed? No problem, Dungeon Smasher. And Porco Jones, welcome. Thank you for that follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Let's have a look. Okay, so that is the completion of that piece. The Constitution modifier 2 hit points, and always at least 1 hit point. Excellent. Okay, well, I think that that is a great point that we have gotten to there, and with that, I think it is a good point to, I guess, wrap up the stream for the day. So, because I have to go, spend time with the family, as it is weekend here, and I do want to make sure that I get to them. But I want to make sure that I go over a couple of things, so don't duck out just yet. I want to make sure that I mention to all of you that if you are not yet a member of our Discord, I highly recommend checking it out. I tossed a link to that over in the chat. Anonymous, thank you very much for the biddies again. Much appreciated. I will be around again on Monday. So if you are not... So again, if you're not following the channel, make sure you do, because that's the best way to get notified when we go live. My plan is still to go back to our old schedule, which is Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for 2 to 3 hour streams usually. Yes, collecting Discords is a great hobby. Our Discord has I don't know, 500, 600, some absurd number of people that are in it, of which there's usually between 1 and 200 people that are active and online at any given time. It's not super active, which makes it not too bad to chat in there if you want to talk about stuff. Additionally, I usually mention in there something about the stream, like when I'm prepping for the stream or something like that, so it's a good way to know what's going on. And then we are... So, as I said, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and if you look at your clock right now and subtract about 3 hours, so look at your current time, subtract about 3 hours, that's roughly speaking my start time on Mondays and Tuesdays, and I start a little bit earlier on Saturdays, and if you look at your clock and subtract about 5 hours, that's about our start time on Thursdays. So I start the stream earlier on Thursdays, but it's usually middle of the day for most of the United States. For Europe, I'm on I'm an evening stream, and well, I don't know where anybody is in the world, but wherever you are, hopefully, our stream time is good for you. Welcome, Crimson Green. You're just in time for the stream to wrap up. So I did want to mention to people, click those links. You'll find a bunch of stuff down below. And yes, I am UTC -4 at the moment. But as soon as we fall back out of daylight savings time, I will be back to UTC -5. So that shift never lines up between the US and Europe anymore either, so they do expect some challenges there as we all shift around at different times. That's when it gets confusing. But otherwise, should all be good. Our next stream, I don't know if we're going to be continuing this, so we'll continue this at some point, and I don't know if that's going to be the next stream, or if we're going to be doing Interactive 7, or work on one of our chatbots. There's a good chance it'll be the chatbot, because I do want to get that running again. There's some kind of issue with the chatbot. Either way, hopefully everybody's having a fantastic day. I am going to raid us over to another stream, but before I do that, I want to roll our credits. So let me go ahead and click that button. Stick with us to go on that raid. We will be raiding over to a nice, fun stream where you will all be welcomed and be able to continue talking about code. So I want to make sure that I thank our anonymous cheerer. So thank you very much. I want to thank Brendonius, our moderator for the day, as well as S&B was here at the beginning, and Crimson Green as well. These wonderful people who followed the stream, thank you very much for following our stream today. If you are one of those great people that clicked that button, I probably thanked you when you were here earlier, but thank you all the same. And I want to make sure that I thank S&B for resubbing to the stream. I think it's his 21-month resub, something like that. So if you are one of our subscribers, thank you very much, and enjoy your DevChatter Chatosaurus emotes all over Twitch. And we will see you on the next one. So have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hopefully it's nice wherever you are. And we will see you again on Monday. So take care, everyone. Bye.